Today on the Star Trek Universe podcast, we're talking a little bit of news and a little bit of listener feedback. It's going to be a laid-back episode, but it should be a lot of fun. Right after this commercial that we have absolutely no control over.
Welcome to the Star Trek Universe podcast. My name is Matthew Carroll.
I am David C. Robertson.
Yeah.
Why are we doing this? Why are we doing the voices thing?
I don't know. It just felt right.
Oh, yes.
And I didn't go... I don't think I really went deeper. I went richer.
Yeah. That hurt my throat.
You gotta work that muscle out, man. Gotta work that muscle
I know.
out. If you're ever going to be Batman.
I don't want to be Batman. He's got a lot to do. I've got a lot to do, but not like Batman.
I mean, the voice of Batman.
I'm just going to use a voice modulator like Batfleck.
Okay, well, let's dive in. What news you got, man? Let's talk some Star Trek. By the way, we should mention we just recorded with Matthew West Fox over at the Superhero Ethics podcast, and we just did a 2-hour episode on the ethics of Picard. So if you're hearing this, that's probably available soonish. So go subscribe to the Superhero Ethics, and we dive really deep into Picard. So we're going to talk news and feedback. This one, we're not going to get too much back into what we just did for 2 hours. So, but it is really had a good time on that. That was a lot of fun.
We did, and. I don't know why I'm just thinking of this now, but we should have invited him to be a part of this.
That would have been fair, yes. Well, you know,
we're bad hosts.
No, we'll have him on when we're actually having some sort of topical discussion. You know.
Okay.
But we'll definitely return the favor. But we'll have him on when we're not just like doing a quick like catch up with the news and feedback because these episodes, you know. There's nothing to like. They're not as meaty. They're just kind of like keeping the light on.
All right. Well, look, LeVar Burton was talking to Entertainment Tonight, and he was asked if he'd be coming back as Geordi on Picard, and apparently he acted a little cagey, and he said he didn't want to get himself into trouble, so of course he's keeping something to himself. And then he says, I think it is reasonable to assume that those people are still a part of Picard's life. Then he goes, sure, what the hell? Yeah, absolutely.
So he said he's going to be on it? For sure?
Yeah. And then he says, they press him a little more. He says, you will see us all. Probably not all at the same time, although never say never.
Wow. You will see us all. So not only did he confirm himself, he confirmed everyone. What?
Pretty much.
WTF? Okay, I said these episodes aren't as meaty, but you just dropped that news dick on the table.
I mean, he was pressed a little more, and he says that his return has been talked about, and he wouldn't confirm that there was a signed deal. He just said mum's the word, but he pretty much just confirmed it.
Yeah, and he said it's safe to assume, which that's a pretty big deal. Yeah,
it is.
I mean, we've expected it. I honestly expected it first season. I expected him and Data to possibly coexist, but you know, we get what we get, I guess.
Here's another weird thing, and I haven't looked at it. I haven't read it, but what's weird is freaking Gates McFadden was just doing a live fan Q&A thing with Robert Picardo, who was the Doctor on Voyager.
Yeah.
And they were basically talking up Picard and how much they like it.
Of course they are. They're angling.
Yeah, but I think they had maybe one scene together in the entire franchise history. Why are those two together?
They had a scene together? What scene?
In First Contact.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
I don't care. Sing a song, do a dance, just distract them.
Love that.
So anyway, that's the thing, LeVar Burton.
And everyone else.
Yeah.
What does that even mean? I guess he probably just means the TNG cast, but then you got Robert Picardo and Gates McFadden together. What's that about? And they're the two medical folks. Have they been working together? Are they working on something? Are they doing a... Sorry. Are they doing like a hospital show set in the Star Trek universe?
That'd be awesome.
Star Trek ER.
That'd be awesome. I want Noah Wiley.
Yeah, I'm on board. They just get all the medical personnel from all the different shows and throw them together.
Yeah. Yeah.
Sorry, that's funnier to me than it probably is.
No, I mean, I would watch Trapper John MD in space. Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think that. I mean, why not?
Not even in space. Do it in San Francisco. Call it just Starfleet Medical.
Yeah.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, and that you could absolutely see. And now I'm going to connect it, but yeah, especially with right now what's going on in the world, we love our doctors and we're thankful with all the work they're doing. I mean, not that we're not normally, but right now it's a big deal. This disease, like you could tell those disease storylines. They said they're not going to do it on Picard. That doesn't mean they're not going to do it. Like, what if they are working on a Starfleet medical show and they're going to work on like whatever, pandemics.
That'd be cool.
Pandemics all over the world, universe, I mean.
Of course, this is like the fanciful Starfleet, so it's just like Starfleet Medical is just them sitting around going, we've already figured out everything.
Right. Well, see, there are a lot of really interesting Starfleet medical episodes, where like, they have to go to some planet and solve some disease.
Absolutely.
Or figure something out or solve something specific to help someone adapt to their environment or whatever, help someone survive and thrive. Like I could totally see a Starfleet medical show.
Yeah.
I don't think that's what they're doing. But the fact that those two are having a meeting together, and we know we're getting like 2 more live action shows that have not yet been announced or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Could be neat. Do we have any other Starfleet medical officers that we could throw in there from the current franchises? DS9, Bashir. Oh,
Bashir.
Yes.
Our man Bashir. Oh man. Now I'm loving this. We get a Starfleet medical show where he's running Starfleet Medical, but he has also become like the head of the Section 31. Like he's ascended the ranks and he's still working as like, high up in Starfleet Medical, but he's also like really high up in Section 31. And so we get those weird crossover Section 31 episodes. Okay. Mike McMahan has said on Twitter that lower decks have been able to work remotely. Good. And that the delivery of the show has not yet been impacted.
Good. I feel like in this time, me and you I guess you're really working still full time, aren't you? Mm-hmm. I'm not working, and I'm trying to be as creative as I can with this time that I have, so that I come out on the other end with more stuff. And it's been difficult. It's been hard. I've been working really hard and not as much to show for it as I want. I just like, I want to like take this time and like write a really good script or something. I know. Stick to a lane, Matt. Stick to a lane.
I mean, no, I don't. I'm the last person to say stick to a lane.
Well, I am the person who said stick to a lane years ago. Very deliberately, I stuck to a lane. I quit working on too many videos or anything else, and I did music, and it was good. I got there. I got to the point where I was making my living from music, and then I started diversifying. I felt like I had to stick to a lane for a while, but yeah. Now I think I'm maybe too diversified again. The amount of podcasting and music, and I am working on. I don't know if you've heard me. Have I told you about my narrative podcast that I'm working on?
Nope.
I'm very excited. I guess I haven't even said this on any podcast, but it's a science fiction show. It's narrative podcast musical.
Oh, well, that's cool.
Yeah. So like, and the goal is to make like a six or so episode arc, and each episode be about 20 minutes. So if you put it all together, it's a like 2-hour musical, like a regular musical. So it's kind of I'm writing it for release in podcast form, but it could be easily cobbled together into like a full musical. But it's science fiction related. I'd love your thoughts on the plot, because I'm not really talking much about that yet, because it's got some
cool
things I don't want to reveal. But science fiction related, which it's fun. It's really fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it. But
good.
Yeah. Anyway, what you got? What's next?
All right. I think I sent this to you, but there's a YouTube channel out there called Ryan's Edits, and it's a lot of fun. And this guy is putting together what he calls Star Trek intakes. He is taking outtakes from Next Generation.
Oh, yeah, I did see these.
And, like, putting them back into the episodes and, like, dramatically. He's keeping, like, the dramatic music and everything. It's fantastic.
Yeah, I saw one of these before you sent me this, but then you sent me the whole group of them, and they're really... I saw the one where Worf and Geordi give a high five in the background.
Yeah, it's like, what about Commander LaForge and Worf? They're back on the ship safely. And then you just see, like, Geordi and Worf, like, high five in the background.
And in the outtake, everyone laughs, but they cut away just in time, so it just looked really natural that Worf and Geordi give a big high five right behind Picard's head. It's super funny.
Yeah, it looks like all of this stuff is actually in the episode.
Yeah.
And it's really fantastic. Like, there's a thing where, like, Worf accidentally says he does not play with boys. And everyone just stands awkwardly and stares at him.
Yeah, because in the middle, and he's like, I do not play with boys. I mean toys. And, like, that's the outtake. But then he's like, I do not play with boys. And then everyone just stares. It's so good. It's so good.
Yeah.
It's very funny. There's more of them now. I think there's 8 of them now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah.
Ooh.
If you go to the YouTube channel, I don't think I've seen all these.
Yeah, I'll post a link to the YouTube channel for sure in our show notes and on our website. Oh, they're good stuff.
Very, very funny. Highly recommend.
Highly. Now, this is a weird thing because I'm torn about this. During the quarantine, I've noticed a lot of cast doing, a lot of celebrities doing this kind of thing. I was alerted last night to the fact that Joel McHale and freaking Ken Jeong are doing a community Q&A podcast. And
they're also doing Scrubs podcast, Fake Doctors, Real Friends.
Absolutely. Zach Braff and Donald Faison are doing that. They're actually rewatching every episode of the show.
Yeah, this is where it makes me upset because how are we supposed to compete in a marketplace of ideas when the actual stars are doing these shows?
It doesn't upset me, man.
I'm mostly joking, but there is a little bit of like, I think the difference between a fan cast and one of those casts is we can talk about these shows critically.
Yes, and that's what I was about to say. You know, they're still scared that they might be able to be on the show later. So, and look, this is a podcast. I might check this out. I might actually start getting into this. It's a show called The Delta Flyers. Robert Duncan McNeill and Garrett Wang are watching every episode of Star Trek Voyager.
Tom Paris and Harry Kim.
Absolutely.
Do you think they're going to be critical? Because I know, like, the guy who played Chakotay has been really critical of Voyager.
He has been, but he was critical before there was a Picard and an expanding universe.
Right, that's true. What about Harry? The guy who plays Harry, Mr. Wang, has he...
Mr. Wang? Garrett Wang, yeah. It just sounded like you said the guy that plays Mr. Wang.
No, I said the guy who plays Harry Kim, Mr. Wang. Okay. I just couldn't remember his first name. Isn't Mr. Wang, isn't there a restaurant here called Mr. Wang's?
I don't know.
I think it's in Prattville, because I remember Ryan, our very juvenile buddy from high school, would always really enjoy the name Mr. Wang's. This juvenility and subtle racism is brought to you by our friend you don't know.
Yep.
I'm pawning it off on him.
My favorite thing with Ryan was I had a roommate, a Chinese roommate named Shu.
Oh no, I don't know if you can tell a story, an act.
Cut it out if you want.
Okay. Wait, I don't even know the story, but I'm just scared. I'm just so scared for Ryan.
We were in a movie theater. We were waiting on Shu, and I said, I'm waiting on my roommate, Shu, and he just started cracking up, and Shu like walked up behind him as he was cracking up, and he was like, what's it? He's like, oh yeah, you're waiting on Shu? Where's Sock? And Shu was like, hello.
Okay.
Ryan was like, oh. And we all had Shu was pretty good humored about that kind of thing. So
right, I just that was not as bad of a story. as I was fearing. Ryan is a wonderful human being, but we were teenagers from Alabama, and
oh gosh, for as much as you talk about Alabama, I don't see as much of this racism and crap and just
I see it all the time.
Ignorance. I
see it all the time. I think me and you both are pretty repellent to it. If we don't play ball with it. If someone is actually like using racial epithets and stuff like that, like we will be like, dude, I don't really want to hear that. Please, we'll say something. Whereas, so I think we shut that stuff down around us to some degree. Or at least we'll give them the look of like, dude, that's not, no, like I'm not on board with your thing. And so I think we don't see it partially because of that, because I think that it definitely happens. I mean, I definitely hear it from time to time. I play weddings in the South with these like very old money, country club Alabama people, and there's plenty of racism abounding in all these places, and I hear them sometimes.
I'm not sure that's not other places too, though. Like, sure. I don't know. Like downtown Birmingham is just like liberal central, though. You know what I mean? Like, it's not
for sure.
I don't want to. I hate like just being like, Alabama, because to be fair, it's not like, that guy that used to have a roommate named Ronnie. It was my wife's boyfriend or ex-boyfriend at the time. And he would just tell stories about how like he was walking down the street to go buy cigarettes, and there were like skinheads sitting on the porch playing their banjo barefoot and petting their possum. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, that is like, you're describing some sort of like hyper realistic Neil Young song.
That's really funny, because that is exactly the kind of ways I would describe the kinds of stories you would tell me all the time when we were younger. Not so much about racism in the South, but like you'll go on a walk to the store and come back and you've met some fantastical character. It happens more to you than anybody else I know. Anyway, well, let's get back to Star Trek. I'm having fun, but let's just let's get through this news. What else we got?
All right. So the crew that did the What We Left Behind series, or What We Left Behind documentary, I should say, they are doing a Voyager documentary.
Oh no!
That's exactly the reaction I had when I saw the news. I went, I'm going to have to watch that. And then I thought, well, maybe we'll get some juice on it. Maybe we'll get something good, get a little tea spilled. And then I thought, nope, everybody wants to be on Picard.
Yeah, it's bad.
Or maybe that doesn't matter. As long as they're not attacking who's working on it right now, it should be fine.
Yeah.
Like, because Jerry Ryan has been very vocal about, what a hose beast Janeway was.
Oh, you mean the actress who played her?
Yeah, Mulgrew.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. Hose beast. That's the most like nonsensical, but I get what you mean. It's a quote from Wayne's World, but yeah, I love it. Psycho hose beast. I wonder if there's some reference there I'm not getting, but I just remember a Psycho hose beast from Wayne's World.
Yeah, I don't know. Is a hose a penis? Yes. Is it some sort of? Is it calling her a whore? I hope not.
Maybe. Could be calling her a enjoyer of the sexual arts.
An enjoyer of the sexual arts. Is this where our politically correct culture has brought us?
It's on online slang dictionary as an undesirable female, either by appearance or personality.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry. We recorded 2 hours of Picard before this, and so I feel real punchy. And I also, I always really try to balance the amount of chitter-chatter / talk about old friends and stuff like that with the amount of content, like real Star Trek we get into. But we just did that for 2 hours really intensely, so I'm feeling a little giggly and silly.
Yeah.
So my apologies. So if you feel like this, you aren't getting your Star Trek fix, check out the Superhero Ethics podcast this week.
All right. So did we talk about, I couldn't remember. And I'll be damned if I'm going to go listen to another of our episodes.
Plus, you're asking me like I'm going to remember.
Yeah. You don't remember anything. Not accurately. Did we talk about Jeff Russo giving an update on Noah Hawley's Star Trek movie?
No, I don't know who any of those people are. No, I'm just kidding. I kind of remember. Yeah, go ahead.
Jeff Russo is a composer.
Uh-huh.
He composes Discovery. He composed Picard. And he also works with Noah Hawley, who he worked with him on Legion. I think he worked with him on Fargo. I'm not sure. I think he did, yeah. And he also worked with him on Hawley's film Lucy in the Sky. So he sat down, apparently he has said that he sat down with Noah Hawley, who is still working on the new Star Trek movie, and says, we've spoken about it and we've talked about what he is going to want from a musical perspective and how to approach it and what the story is looking like it's going to be, which is extremely exciting to me, but it was not by design. All of that was purely by coincidence that I happen to be doing Star Trek, but also happen to be a frequent collaborator for the new Star Trek director. He's also a fan and a good friend of mine. So when I started working on Star Trek, we chatted about it, talked about it, had conversations about the storytelling and the music and the themes and stuff. He's one to definitely talk about music with me. So when he called to say that his film was in the works, I was extremely excited. I think that's really cool. I love Jeff Russo's work on Discovery and Picard. And I love his work on Legion. I haven't watched Fargo, but now that I know Noah Hawley's involved and is the showrunner for that, I have even more plans to watch that. Even though it's already connected in canon with the Coen Brothers movie, and I'm a huge Coen Brothers fan, so I was going to get to that anyway. Yeah, that's all great. I really hope. That's not to say that we know for sure that Jeff Russo is working on the movie.
Seems pretty likely though, since they're such common collaborators. And man, I've heard nothing but great things about Fargo, and I also have heard nothing but great things about Legion. And I've seen the first 2 episodes of Legion, and then they were great, but it was another show that took a lot of focus, and I at the time didn't have the time. But this might be the time. I might have to catch up on those shows.
Legion is fantastic, but it's very dense.
Yes.
You can't be sitting and drawing or doing something. You've got to just be really. If you want to give it the proper respect, you can just play video games or whatever you want. But
Noah Hawley as a writer has had some this is just hit after hit. I mean, he started out with apparently he did some episodes of Bones, which I like some episodes of Bones a lot. But the last few years, Fargo, Legion, Lucy in the Sky, Cat's Cradle, and Untitled Star Trek sequel. He's just doing some good stuff. So he hasn't done much before Fargo, and so the fact that he hasn't done much before Fargo and then he did Legion, that's a really good, a good rate of good shows, which I have not seen all of, but I've just heard nothing but great things. So I really would like to see all of Fargo and Legion. We should do that some sort of Stranded Panda thing for that. Especially if quarantine continues.
Yeah, and you know what? I really like Noah Hawley's aesthetic. He is going back. The current season of Fargo is set in the 40s or 50s. It's like a gangster thing. So, and Legion is really 1960s retro futuristic in a lot of ways. So I'm really interested to see where he takes Star Trek.
Yeah, especially that retro futuristic thing is something you love about Star Trek, and you'd love to see them do more of.
Absolutely. And he has said that he is not bound by anything they're doing on television.
Okay.
He is also not bound by anything that they have done in previous movies. Noah Hawley has. He has said that they asked if he'd be using a different cast, and he's like, well, new characters often require a new cast.
Neat. So he's actually talking about doing new characters, which I love. I love the idea of doing a Star Trek movie that is just telling a completely new story. And I love the idea of setting it in a way that you can't tell if it's which canon it's in. You don't have to have some big event like the destruction of Vulcan or the destruction of Romulus or the destruction. It's like you don't have to have some huge event to make it a valuable story. And he seems good at telling small stories. Have you finished all of Legion?
No.
Okay.
I've got just a few episodes left.
Gotcha. I may have to catch up.
I'm excited to see where it's going. But man, like, even if it ends in like the worst, shittiest way possible, there are episodes of that show that will haunt me forever. Like, I love it. It's so good.
Awesome. And I really hear the same thing about Fargo. So I'm going to have to dive into his breadth of work and see what I think, especially now that he's on the Star Trek property.
Yeah. Now the Hawley thing where he said new characters usually require a new cast, to me is interesting because Variety just recently reported that Chris Pine was going to be playing in the new version of The Saint from Paramount. He's going to be playing Simon Templar. And that's interesting because the Variety report says Paramount and Pine have had strong ties for many years. Their relationship goes back to 2009 when the studio hired him to play Captain Kirk in the latest Star Trek franchise, launching his career as a leading man in the process. While the fourth Star Trek film is still being developed, the studio saw The Saint as the perfect role for Pine as they wait for that script to be finished, which would seem to imply that he is still going to be involved in the new Star Trek movie.
Or that they don't know. Like, they may be waiting on, like, Noah Hawley may write a script and they go, oh, you wrote a script about a different crew. No. Like, we want to do this. It could be that he writes a script and it's amazing, and then they go, well, we want to do this, but let's also have someone write a fourth Star Trek movie,
Yeah, I think they should do both.
I'm down.
I want to see the Quentin Tarantino movie. I want to see a proper Star Trek 4 from Lindelof or whoever, and I would love to see a Hawley movie that are all not connected. I want to see all the things.
Yeah, me too.
And that was a thing that we talked about when we were kids. I used to say, like, I wish they would just let different, like, auteur directors just do their own version of Star Trek for a movie or so.
You never used the word auteur when you were
I never said the word auteur, but I said different different directors who have specific styles.
I'm just teasing you, man.
Yeah.
Just bringing it back to the fact that we've been friends for 30 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, back then I was saying, like, I was just using examples. I was like, different directors with with their own style. Like, Tim Burton should have a Star Trek, and Kevin Smith should have a Star Trek.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Agreed. Okay. Well, what any other news? We should get to feedback.
Yeah. There's a little bit of news, and it's a little iffy. This was like a few weeks ago. Viacom. There was a report that Viacom has been seeing a lot of problems. Viacom CBS, and now, right before the pandemic hit, though, the CEO Bob Bakish was talking about taking the Star Trek franchise and extending it across the house. Sort of touting all the different shows at CBS All Access and the one at Nickelodeon, as well as the, quote, highly anticipated new Star Trek feature at Paramount. And that was at the investor conference. But since the pandemic hit, they have their stock has crashed, basically. And it's going up now, but they lost 2/3 of their value.
Who did?
Viacom CBS.
Viacom CBS. Okay. Yeah, but that's I think that's a lot of that's. I mean, 2/3 is a lot more than most things lost, but a lot of things are losing a lot of value this week, so I wouldn't.
And well, I mean, yeah, but they've been going up in the last few weeks, and this still being heavily recommended that people buy in, that they're a good solid bet.
Yeah,
and you should. They raised their new debt offering to $2.5 billion to help them keep afloat. One of the things that really sucks, and I wonder how it's going to affect the book license, is they are selling off Simon & Schuster, which has held the Star Trek books license for friggin' ever. Not ever, but not forever, but since like the 80s,
right?
70s or 80s, something
Hopefully
like that. I think it was
80s. The connectivity, not that the books have ever been canon, but
yeah. They've gotten like at least 25 inquiries from interested parties, apparently. They just closed a $375 million deal to buy 49% stake in Miramax, which also includes a deal for Paramount to distribute Miramax films and develop Miramax IP for future films. So there's a possibility that we might be seeing something Star Trek related. Like they could kind of go like the DC Black Label or whatever, like where they're just doing like really, really low budget, like indie house Star Trek films that would probably clean up.
Oh yeah, I bet, man. I bet. Yeah, they'd be pissed off fans
smart.
that they're going so dark with Star Trek. But if they were doing it where they said it was a different universe, and yeah, you can't bring your kids to it. This is for you. You know what I mean? Like, just go for it.
They wouldn't necessarily have to go dark. They could just do like a quiet character piece set on a world or on Earth or a space station without having like a huge special effects budget. And, if we got like a small Miramax film that was, about Garrett or was about Bashir or anybody, that they could probably like destroy with that shit. Or they could probably use Miramax to release documentaries, like official documentaries about Star Trek, and do really well. Like throw $1 million at it, and make 15, 16 times the amount of money that they threw in.
Yeah, man, for sure. That the Joker model is very much going to be alive and well going forward, I think.
And they're making more international deals. They have a deal to make new Nickelodeon content for the German market for Sky. They're acquiring Israeli TV company Anene, and I mean they're making some moves, and I don't know that they're all good moves, but they have the potential to be really good moves if they play their cards right. Cool. All right, you want to talk about some feedback here?
Yeah, man, throw some feedback at us.
All right, now if we missed something, if I missed something, let me know. I don't think I did, but Stu Little says if most Star Trek shows are a take on the military and scientific exploration aspect of the Federation, what would a Federation law enforcement show be like? Do you think they have an equivalent of things like the U.S. Marshals for hunting fugitives across star systems? DEA for the snake leaf cartels, and is there room for exasperated captains complaining about how their detectives are loose torpedo tubes, but damn it, they get results?
That's awesome.
Yeah,
I love the loose torpedo tubes line.
I will offer this. Okay. If you'll recall, and I don't know if you've seen Enterprise, Stu, but on Enterprise there were the Makos, and they were wound up getting disbanded later on. Basically, Starfleet does seem to be the Federation is law enforcement, like FBI or something. You know what I mean? Like they have like quote unquote federal law under their jurisdiction. But we do know that like Sisko was made head of Earth security in Deep Space Nine. We know that Earth security exists from way back in Star Trek 3 when a guy from Earth security overheard McCoy talking about chartering a flight to Genesis and put him in the Hooskow over it. So we do know that there is Earth security and then there is Starfleet. And I would assume that Starfleet was like federal law, and each planet within the Federation had their own set of law enforcement, which I would equate to state law if you're talking about the United States, which I know you're not in the United States, Stu. But I think that's how it would work, generally.
You also just have, you call it Earth security, but you also just have security. Like, the security chief on a ship is often the one who is, like, investigating a crime inside the Federation. And I don't know how much Stu was taking this question seriously or he was making a joke, but I think it's totally interesting. I think a show, just like we were talking about 10 minutes ago about a Starfleet medical show, I would love to see like a security based television show where they're doing like I would watch that procedural, you know? Yeah. Like, I'm not a big procedural guy, but if you wrote it well and it was like based in the Star Trek universe, I'd have to watch it, and it would appease some of those, like, I think it would like cross over. Like, I think it could bring in those people who love those procedural cop shows, but it would also bring in the fans who want back the sort of episodic Star Trek. Yeah, and like do a cop procedural where he's like a Starfleet chief of security, and he has to like whatever the problem of the week is, he has to look at it from a security perspective. That sounds fun.
I just had an awful idea, but I would do it if I was in charge.
Love it.
A Star Trek anthology show, which is basically just a pilot mill.
Didn't you watch Picard?
No, come on.
It was not an anthology.
It was a pilot mill, but it wasn't an anthology.
Definitely a pilot mill. Like multiple per episode.
Oh.
I want them all. I'm broken as hell, man. Like, I'm like, this show is nothing but a pilot mill. And then I'm like, please make all of them.
Yeah, me too. I'm like, this is obvious. Captain Pike over here on Discovery. I want that show.
Yeah, please make that show. Oh, Section 31, man, it's like dripping. Why is this show dripping with Section 31? Oh, because they're spinning that off. Oh, why is 7 around? Oh, Fenris Ranger show? Sure. I'd love a freaking show about those two Tal Shiar agents leaving to go back out and figure out what's going on with the Romulan Empire now that their enemies are long gone or whatever, and they're no longer protecting Picard or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I want them all. I want all the things.
Yep.
Even if I'm going to be annoyed that it doesn't match up to what the stories could be in my head.
I would take a crime lord series that jumps back 15 years and tells the story of Vajazel.
Oh God, that would be so good.
And Quark could be a main character because their bars are next to each other.
Yes,
like she's the competitor for Quark.
Yes, I want Breaking Bad, but with Vajazel.
Yeah. Oh man, if you could tell Vajazel's story but make her the hero.
Better Call Vajazel.
All right. What other feedback you got?
Chuck Credo the Fourth says, "What does God need with a starship?"
Thank you, Chuck.
He goes on. P.S. Would love to hear your thoughts on the potential stories we may get in New Trek now that the CBS VIACOM merger has brought together the IP. A Cybok miniseries may be out of the cards, but perhaps the SETI Alpha series. I'll be honest. I don't know. Like, I know that there has been a lot of rumor about what CBS could and couldn't do because they were separate from the movies.
Right. It's all rumor, though. We have no actual information.
It is all rumor, mostly perpetrated by people like, I can't even remember the name of that YouTube. Midnight's Edge. Okay. I was actually happy. I was like, oh, good. Those toxic gatekeepers I can't remember the name of. But I remembered, damn it. So yeah, they seem very intent on like spreading this narrative. And I don't know that it's false, but they're spreading a narrative that they had no access to anything, or, They had to be 25% different than whatever the movies were doing or something.
Right.
Or the movies had to be 25% different than the original series or the prime timeline, and because it's technically contractually a certain way, whatever.
Right.
The Discovery had to be that way too. I don't know that, like, CBS has said that they've always had all the access to all the things that they ever wanted, and that any differences in aesthetics on the show were clearly and completely a creative decision. So I don't know that anything was ever off the table as far as the merger being complete or not. What's good about this is that we don't ever have to wonder again. Like, we don't have to, like, that's not like a real thing that anyone's going to be able to argue anymore. But as far as what I would love to see, I would love to see a Cybok miniseries way before SETI Alpha. I don't want Khan done again. I'm sick of Khan. Like, I am good with the Greg Cox books that go into, like, how Khan came to be. I don't need to see yet another version of I don't need to see him hanging out on SETI Alpha, mourning his wife and all of that stuff. Like, I'm absolutely fine. I want Star Trek to tell news stories.
Me too. Let's talk about something. Can you think of, okay, once something was iconic, like, I guess the Borg, maybe. Okay, let's say once something becomes iconic in a series, have they ever really done it well in another series? Like, especially a villain. I'm thinking of, like, even concepts like, I don't know. I'm trying to, like, place my thoughts here, but, like, the Borg, clearly, I don't think they were ever done well again after the Next Generation crew dealt with them.
I think the Klingons were quite iconic in the original series, but they were done much better in Next Generation, and then subsequently,
I don't know that I'd even call them really iconic. I mean, I'm not saying they weren't that prevalent in the original series,
but they were enough. They
3 or 4 episodes, right? Something like that. Or am I?
Yeah, but that's more than anybody else got.
Sure, that's true. That was pretty iconic, and they definitely were fleshed out more, but not as a villain.
Right, yeah, and I think that they got fleshed out a lot more in TNG and way more in Deep Space Nine.
Yeah,
like, Deep Space Nine, like, really, like.
Now that's something Star Trek does really well, is take something that was a villain and turns it into a character we can, like, care about. That's part of, I think, the mission of Star Trek, is to show you something that's different and then show you why it also has value, and why you shouldn't judge things. I don't know, like that's a whole part of the ethos of Star Trek to me.
Yeah, and I would argue that the DS9 fleshed out the Ferengi.
Well, again, it's exactly the same thing. You've got a Ferengi who are basically just villains.
Yeah.
In Next Generation, then the next series turns it into a character who you care about, and you see them as a 3-dimensional person.
But they were pretty really iconic in TNG, though.
They what?
Ferengi were pretty iconic in TNG.
Yeah, no. I'm saying, like, as a villain, like, staying as a villain. I don't know. Just bringing back a villain because they were popular just seems like always a bad idea, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
A villain isn't always, like, just because they're a villain doesn't mean that they are all bad. Like, sure. And there are plenty of bad Ferengi in DS9, like Brunt and Nagus sometimes. And Nagus, gets redeemed, but,
Well, and I guess they could. I guess I'm kind of talking myself into the Khan series, because I'm like, they have done really well with, like, introducing characters in old media, and then when they bring them into the new media, making them a protagonist. Make a Khan Breaking Bad kind of show, where he's the guy trapped on the planet trying to save his people, and then slowly goes mad and wants to kill Kirk when he gets the chance.
Honestly, the way he describes it in Wrath of Khan is, I don't want to see that show. Like,
right. It does seem boring.
Like, 6 months after the thing explodes, and then they're just, like, trying to survive, and his wife dies, and pretty much all that he does for, like, 15 years is sit around stewing over how he's going to kill Kirk if he ever gets the chance. Like, that sounds boring to me. Also, I don't want any other Star Trek shows where we actually, like, have an expectation of canon and watch them, like, ruin the canon.
And watch them completely ignore the canon. I agree with that. I want future stories, but then by the same ethos that we were talking about earlier, it's like, I don't really mind if they tell stories that aren't even for me. Like if they're telling all kinds of stories, it's fine. I don't want to be a gatekeeper about that, but I also, and obviously I'm going to talk about what I like and what I don't.
And to speak to what I said earlier about wanting the Captain Pike series, which is nothing but, having a set point in time and canon established in the future that they're going to ruin, I don't consider Discovery Prime. It's Prime adjacent in my head. It just is. There's no way around it.
Yeah, I hear you. I don't agree, but I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, I know you don't agree. It's okay, though. We still love each other.
Indeed.
What else? And I think that's it. I think that's all I've got, man.
All right, cool. That's the news. That's the feedback. All right, guys. Well, thank you guys for joining us. We are the Star Trek Universe Podcast. I don't know. Are we at StarTrekUcast.com? Is that where we are? Do we have a website?
StarTrekUcast.com.
Nice.
Yeah, we have a website.
Nice. If you want to check out more from our hosts, we're working on a relaunch of StrandedPanda.com, where you'll be able to see where all the hosts and all our shows are, all the different shows. So, check that StrandedPanda.com out. Join the Stranded Panda Army, where you'll get monthly whatevers about where we, what we're doing.
Monthly whatevers.
Emails and such.
Right.
Anyway, guys, thank you so much. We'll be back soon. Peace.
Joel on true and live long and prosper.
Screw you. Thank you for listening to the Star Trek Universe Podcast, a Stranded Panda production. If you'd like to hear more from David C. Robertson, check out the DC On Screen podcast or maladjusted.tv for his web videos. If you'd like to hear more from Matthew Carroll, check out the Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast or listen to his music. Just search for Matthew Carroll anywhere you get music.